Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Salebox for the 23rd of December 2012. My name is TotalBiscuit, rounding up your daily Steam deals. Apologies, we're a little bit late today. It is Sunday, it's supposed to be my day off. I'm delusional for believing that I could actually do that. As usual, the deals presented today will be on sale for 48 hours, but there will be new deals every 24, so there will always be two sets of deals on at any given time. If you want information about the deals down to the bottom, which were the deals that came out yesterday but are still running for the next, well, probably about 16 more hours, then you can do so by checking yesterday's video. Alright, let's have a look and see what's up today, and we're going to start with Chivalry, 50% off. That is $12.49, €11.49 in Tier 1, €8.99 in Tier 2, and £9.49. Chivalry is a first-person melee combat deathmatch game with a rather cool team objective mode, by which you must complete various objectives which include slaying the filthy peasants, burning things to the ground, as well as killing the royal family, and other really neat stuff like poisoning the water supply with a cart full of corpses. Yeah, it's a little bit grim at times, and that is a good thing indeed as far as I'm concerned. The game itself is very visceral. It is fairly skill-based, although you'll probably get rather frustrated from the new players doing nothing but left-clicking, which involves swinging their weapon in the widest arc possible and hitting as many friendlies, perhaps more so than they do enemies. Not exactly great, but I like it. It's very in-your-face, very visceral, it's very meaty, the blows feel like there's some genuine impact behind it, and because it's in first-person, you do really get up in the face of your opponent. Now, you can play it in third-person mode, but that would make you a sissy girl, so just bear that one in mind. Chivalry comes highly recommended and does indeed have a very strong community presence. A lot of people playing it. It is highly ranked on Steam, and there is new content, I believe, coming in January. So, without question, if you're looking for a medieval deathmatch game with no single player of any description, then this is a good one to look at. Anno 2070, 60% off, takes it down to $20, €20 or £11.99. So for the UK, that's a pretty solid deal. This is more of an economic management game than it is anything else. It does have some warfare elements to it, but the Anno series has always really been about your economy, trading, and constructing a really awesome settlement. In this case, this one's actually set in the future, so it brings the whole idea of war over resources as well as global warming and a bunch of other stuff into it. And it is a game that I wish I'd had the chance to play more of, because when it comes to the Anno series, Anno 1701 was a game that I played a ton of, and I absolutely loved it. And then 1404 came out, that was pretty cool too, and now we've got 2070. So, when I get the chance, I'll probably sit down for days and play the hell out of this game. As it stands, I only got to dip into it. What I saw of it, I really enjoyed. The game is well reviewed for a good reason, and while I believe it used to have this nasty always-on DRM, it doesn't actually have that anymore, and it is Tega's DRM only. That was probably the biggest gripe I actually had about the game, but as of September this year, they dropped always-on DRM on a number of titles, including 2070, as well as stuff like Ghost Recon, Future Soldier, and a bunch of other stuff. So, honestly, now is probably the time to get it. This is the cheapest that I've seen it. And if you like games which are essentially city constructors and economic simulators, then you're really not going to find all that many of them, especially not a game as modern as Anno 2070. So now that the DRM is gone, it would be a good idea, I feel, to take a look. There are also discounts on DLC as well. That's something I'm afraid I cannot actually speak to, but I'm hoping that I'll get the chance to check that out. And of course, there are many other places where you can find out more information about Anno 2070, especially considering it was pretty much well reviewed across the board. Saints Row the Third, 75% off, taking it down to $7.49, €7.49 or £6.24. Now, as I mentioned yesterday, it may very well be better for you to pick up the THQ pack if you don't own most of the games in it. Saints Row the Third is included in that pack, as is Saints Row 2, which many would argue is a better game, but what I will say is the PC port is nowhere near as good as Saints Row the Third's. No real doubt about that. Also, a point to make is that most of the DLC is about 75% off. In fact, all the really good stuff is 75% off. So that's Trouble with Clones, Gangsters in Space, Genki Bowl 7. That stuff is 75% off. The other stuff is kind of pointless. It's mostly costumes and extra weapon packs and things like that. But Saints Row the Third is certainly a very enjoyable open world game with a emphasis on the ridiculous, quite frankly. It's just beyond silly in many, many ways. Great with co-op as well, honestly. A little bit repetitive in places, as most open world games have a tendency to get from time to time, but certainly a very enjoyable experience. Honestly, not quite as many features and different activities available as in Saints Row 2, but the game is a hell of a lot better on PC, which is, as far as I'm concerned, a rather strong selling point. Once again, though, it's entirely possible that a bunch of you already own this game because it was in the Humble THQ bundle, and if you don't, then you're probably better off buying the THQ pack anyway. And honestly, anytime a THQ game comes up in the sale, I'm going to mention this pack now, because the pack has Company of Heroes and its expansions, Darksiders 1 and 2, Dawn of War Retribution, Homefront, Metro 2033, MX vs. ATV, Nexus, Red Faction 2, Red Faction Armageddon, Saints Row 2, Saints Row the Third, Supreme Commander 2, Titan Quest, Immortal Throne, Warhammer 40,000, Space Marine, Warhammer 40,000 Dawn of War 2, and Dawn of War 2 Chaos Rising. Yeah, that's a really silly deal, folks. Really, that's a very silly deal, and you should buy it. The Portal franchise, 75% off. That takes it down to $6.24, €6.24 in Tier 1, €4.74 in Tier 2, and £4.49. A nice example, by the way, those of you looking to excuse Valve for the whole $1 thing, saying, oh, it's the publisher. They did it with their own game. So, yeah, just a thing to bear in mind. They really do believe that that's a good idea. It's not. Alright, anyway, Portal franchise. So, that, needless to say, is Portal 1 and 2. That's it. That's what's in there. I mean, as regards to Portal, I'm pretty sure most of you already know what Portal actually is. On the off chance that you don't, it is a first-person puzzle game which involves using a portal gun to traverse various obstacles by using the notions of momentum, as well as some pretty brain-bending physicsy nonsense. Not my kind of game. Great sense of humor, however. A little bit too good a sense of humor since it spawned horrendous memes for years, but yeah, it's hard to really argue against Portal 2. If you haven't played it already, this is a great time to do it. You can just buy Portal 2 on its own at 75% off, which will save you a little bit of money, just in case you happen to already own Portal, which you probably do because, you know, it came as part of the orange box. So you may wish to avoid the bundle and just pick up Portal 2. Also, if you want to play co-op with a friend, you can split it with the Portal 2 2-pack, which will save you a little bit extra. Carrier Command, 50% off, takes it down to $25, €19.99, and £15.99. Right, well, as much as I wanted to like Carrier Command, unfortunately, it appears that the game was released in a fairly buggy state. This is certainly not by any stretch of the imagination out of the ordinary for the guys over at Bohemia, I am afraid, but it has got very middling reviews indeed. Also, it doesn't have multiplayer, which is definitely something that's got me scratching my head. I feel that that would have been a rather important feature to a remake of Carrier Command, but they decided not to include it. The notion of the game, similar to the original Carrier Command, is that you command a aircraft carrier, a futuristic one, that can deploy various different kinds of vehicles. I mean, if you've played Hostile Waters Antius Rising, then I think you probably know a little bit about that kind of thing, although I feel that that game was actually better. And you can also take direct control of the units in order to complete your objectives. The campaign is reasonably scripted, although for the most part it does let you do what you want, although it also has some first-person shooter segments that you're kind of forced to do, which apparently aren't very good. But there is a decent amount of scale to it. But unfortunately, as I said, the game did release in a reasonably buggy state. Lacking multiplayer means that it's kind of hard to recommend this game at this price. It's a good discount. 50% off something that's only been out for a couple of months is a pretty big deal, but I would hold off a little bit and see where they go with it. As with many Bohemia games, the chances are they will get much, much better later down the line, but I can't personally recommend this one as a purchase to anyone at the moment. And finally, Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition, 75% off, taking it down to $13.49. It is €10.74 in Tier 1 Europe, but is not available in Region 2. As regards to why that is, well, I can tell you it's most likely because of the fact that the bloody thing uses Games for Windows Live, which is not available in many of the Eastern European countries due to hell if I know. It'll also set you back £8.74. Now, bear in mind that the prices I just gave you is for the complete pack that is advertised on the Steam front page. What has that got? Well, it's essentially a bunch of skins. That's it. A bunch of costumes. You don't actually need that. Especially bearing in mind that the PC version is completely moddable on the costume side of things, and you can get all sorts of different skins for your characters. Although, bear in mind, most people won't actually be able to see them. Unfortunately, I have difficulty recommending this. One, because there is actually another game that's newer than that, that being Street Fighter X Tekken. Not that most competitive players would say that that is the game you should be focusing on. Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition is a better balanced game at the moment, so I am told. But with Games for Windows Live in the mix, and with a fairly small PC community, which means that matchmaking can sometimes take a great deal of time, or unfortunately will result in you being match-made with someone that's lagging, which is horrible for a fighting game, it might be best actually to give this one a miss. That's not to say the game is bad. The game is actually great. I mean, I think Street Fighter 4 is just a phenomenal game, and I picked up the original when it came onto PC, and I certainly didn't regret it. I also grabbed Arcade Edition when it came out, and it was pretty good back then, but unfortunately the community has withered rather than grown, and that means that you're not going to be getting a huge amount of players, and the ones that you do get are probably going to crush you. So if you're new to the game, then you might have a pretty rough time online. On the flip side, if you happen to have a bunch of friends that already own it or are interested in getting it, there is a 4-pack, which is a good price, and yeah, if you guys want to play with each other, by all means. It's a really good fighting game. It's probably the best fighting game on PC right now. Unfortunately, it seems like the fighting game scene on PC is somewhat non-existent at the moment, so you're not going to find a huge amount of players for it. You'll find them every now and again, but like I say, you'll probably be matched with people that are either not in your region, so it's going to be lagging, or are just way better than you and will absolutely crush you. So it's hard to recommend it on that basis, but the game itself is absolutely fantastic. Alright folks, that's me pretty much done for the day. Thank you very much for watching the Salebox. I'll be bringing you one tomorrow. You'll have to forgive me, I will not be bringing you one on Christmas Day, because I would actually kind of like to spend that with the family. It's probably a good idea. I'd like to survive the new year. That's not going to happen if the missus kills me. So, with that in mind, I will see you next time.